Hello everyone, how's it going? In today's video, we will cover the stock Cosmos Health, trading under the ticker symbol COSM. The market has been very volatile as of late, with many titles having huge swings up and down. So for many people, they are very interested in the volatility of COSM because of the short squeeze potential. In this video, we will take a look at the stock from a technical and fundamental perspectives and determine what would be a recommended course of action to carry out for Cosmos Health. If you appreciate my content, please consider to drop a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Also, please check out the links in the description section as every help is greatly appreciated. Over the past few days, Cosmos Health has seen its upward momentum, a relatively timid one at that, put into jeopardy, as the bulls across the board have stepped in to mark a pause on the current push because of the additional worries from the global markets, coupled with persistent skepticism from the same market participants that maybe Cosmos cannot really sustain itself. Well, we know for sure that it cannot sustain itself, but that even this momentum cannot sustain itself. And then the self-fulfilling prophecy kind of began to play its magic. Cosmos is a relatively small fish in this bearish ocean, and it is certainly influenced by the mood of the market at large. The additional issues that are specific to Cosmos are its weak fundamentals, the uncertainties of the future ahead, and the self-fulfilling prophecy, like I said, of the massive sell-off if things don't work. In other words, it takes a small batch of people to start selling, to influence the action of a bigger crowd of people, and this will then influence an even bigger crowd of people, so on and so forth. So overall, I think that, if the question asked is if you should keep Cosmos on your short list of potential purchases, I believe that the answer is yes. Assuming that you are willing to take the risks that are proper to small cap companies, and also that are proper to companies with an uncertain going concern. So in that sense, Cosmos would remain a volatile title to be traded, with a potential gain to be made if the cost is sufficiently low and if the volatility comes in at the right time. So this would assume that we need to have patience with Cosmos, and we definitely cannot follow the bulls, because these spikes might be very short-lived, and as a consequence, we need to always assume the worst and hope for the best. Cosmos Health is an international healthcare group that is based in Chicago, selling nutraceuticals with two product lines, Sky Premium and Mediterranean. It also commercializes generic medications. The company has a presence in Europe, Middle East, and North America. It has an emphasis on nutraceutical research, development, and commercialization due to the low-risk profiles and clear regulations in the sector. It's worth mentioning that nowadays the management believes that the stock has solvency or going concern issues, putting its future into jeopardy. The management has mentioned that due to recurring losses, there has to be an injection of capital, either by selling or diluting the equity, issuing more debts, or to refinance the debts. In other words, they need to either borrow money, sell the company for more money, or to go into something like Chapter 11. Ultimately, it seems like the company has currently chosen the road of selling the equity, taking advantage of the recent renewed interest that retail investors have in Cosmos Health. The long-term price action has been plagued by poor results, as well as the piling up of short orders, which caused the price to plummet for a period of time. For a period between August and November 2022, the stock price declined by more than 83% before the recoveries. Over the past few years, it regularly traded in the high tens or low three digits. Of course, the whole situation from a technical perspective gives us a sentiment that this is a very good opportunity to buy. But I believe that we now evolve in a different environment and that we have now to deal with the fact that this stock is currently playing for its survival and that the most challenging is still ahead of us. When we look at the company's profitability, it's obvious to see that things have been on the stagnant side, with both the revenue and gross margin as well as the net income having a hard time growing, while the operating expenses are not diminishing. This means that if Cosmos Health is popular with shareholders, it's certainly not because of its fundamental potentials, however we want to take them that way. The good news is, of course, if we want to find a positive news in all this, is that they seem to be pretty good with controlling the liabilities, between $40 to $45 million, peaking in Q4 of 2021 at $51 million. What this means is that the company is trying its best to keep things under control. Another thing that we can see is that the company's assets seem to be entirely financed by debts, with a relatively small portion of the operations financed by equity. This means that Cosmos would have a significant amount of obligatory cash outflows, and if they don't comply, the company could go liquidated. So the cash situation for Cosmos is also negative. Most of its cash inflows come from financing, in other words, asking people to trust the company by putting their money in it. Overall, the situation of Cosmos Health from a fundamental perspective doesn't look good, which might be the reason why it has a large short position placed against it. This may reinforce my feeling that COSM is a good stock for trading, but not necessarily for investing. The low cash levels would also suggest that a company can go through another round of stock dilutions or to issue more debts. Now, let's also take a look at the shareholder composition of Cosmos. According to Fintel, there is no institutional shareholder owning Cosmos Holdings. Only the retail shareholders own it. If this were true, then we're looking at a stock that's obviously fit once again for short-term swing trade. The uncertain future of Cosmos, with the going concern in jeopardy, means that the short-term outlook of the stock can be very volatile, whether it goes up or down. One key behavioral difference between institutional and retail shareholders is their horizon. Institutional shareholders tend to take longer-term view, with a focus on the company's fundamentals and growth prospects. They're also less likely to engage in short-term trading and less affected by the market volatility. They're also more likely to get involved with the corporate management and corporate governance. For example, they're more present in the corporate votes than the retail traders who are only here to scalp the gains. In fact, Cosmos Health has a massive appeal due to the potentials of a short squeeze. Short squeezes are what shareholders hope to achieve by piling in a stock that is massively shorted, forcing the short sellers to redeem their positions. They are very often compelled to do so because as long as those positions remain open, they would have to pay financing fees to brokers and also have to assume the risk of infinite loss, since the potential loss is from their entry point. And this can be infinite, since we would be calculating the losses between where the stock can go, infinite, and their entry point. In the case of Cosmos, there is a large position of shares sold against the company, taking more than 1.3 days to cover. This may mean that if the shares were redeemed, then there can be a massive spike for its share price. Overall, I believe that Cosmos shares have a significant possibility to squeeze for the short term. I'm really not sure about the long-term prospects though, and we're not really here for that. So we should remember that the short interest doesn't really guarantee a short squeeze, and that it's a metric that's worth monitoring for the investors to keep in mind that there can be a potential for such phenomenon to occur. But nevertheless, we should also remember that very often the short sellers may have valid reasons for the bearish sentiment. Based on the analysis, assuming that the price can stabilize around $5, I would then recommend to start buying Cosmos over a period of 6 to 8 weeks, and to hold it for about 30 to 50% of profit target from like where you bought them, and to liquidate part or all the position once we reach at least $10. I think that Cosmos Health deserves to be in your portfolio if the risk tolerance is considered to be high and if the holdings are diversified. The best approach in this case would be to smooth out the short-term volatilities by buying in small batches over the next few weeks. I would therefore recommend an exposure of 1% of your portfolio to be spent in Cosmos when it happens.